So you see Kobe go down with that Achilles, the most serious injury he's had. At the same time, it's Kobe, and nobody seems to rehab or take that more seriously, as Gary Vitti has told me in all of his years as a trainer. So when that happens, Mitch, what in your GM mind, aside from just being disappointed and upset for Kobe, clicks on as you think about kind of what's going to happen surely for that season being over, but then the next year in Kobe's career?
Well, medicine has advanced to the point where there's rarely an injury that a player can't come back from today. Then you've got to factor in, the sport and the age of the player, and, Mother Nature. So, that kind of covers all the bases when we're talking about, Kobe's injury. I do know he's on schedule in terms of where he should be with that kind of injury. I'm continually amazed, at his optimism and his fortitude and his confidence. He will be on a basketball court, there's no doubt about that. And I know he'll be as focused, as driven as ever.
How do you look at building the team, not just for next year, but all the cap space we hear about in 2014-15 when Steve Nash is the only guy under contract? So how do you think both short-term and long-term when you try to build this team?
Well, we don't have a young, developing team. We've been fortunate now to have Kobe here, approaching 20 years.
Yeah, half of his life, right?
It's so that by itself tells you that we're closer to the end of that era than we are to the beginning of it. Certainly adding a Steve Nash, who's closer towards the end of that era, and then Powell, I think, has got several more years to go. So nothing lasts forever. I mean, if anybody's been able to, get the best out of a player, it's been this franchise with Kobe. Okay, but we know, with Jerry West and with Wilt and Kareem and Magic, everything at some point in time does come to an end. And we're trying to plan for that. And now, don't get me wrong, Kobe went down with a devastating injury, but I expect him back next year. And who knows, he may play again. I just don't know how much more beyond next year. So we're not at a point right now where everything is going to change, but we're looking, a year or two down the road when we have to transition into another era, which is why the Dwight piece is very, very important, bringing him back, getting him back in the fold to build around him.
Where do you stand, just to be clear, on Dwight Howard?
Considering the circumstances last year, surrounding him with the players we had, where everybody was a focal part of the offense, and keeping in mind that Dwight, when he started playing, I didn't think he'd play until January. He was playing in training camp. Statistically, he had as good a year as he ever had. And maybe he scored a point less or 2 points less, but we had a lot more guys on this team that needed to have the ball in their hands and that was capable of scoring as well. So I don't think, that he got as much credit, for the kind of season he had as he should have gotten. And most importantly, you saw what he can do, later on in the season. He had a stretch in February or March where, I think it was like 16, 17 rebounds a game and maybe a little bit less, maybe 14 rebounds a game and, 20, 22 points a game for, 15. And that's more reflective of, what Dwight can do for this team. But, when you have surgery in April of the prior season on your back, it's going to take a year. But, when you look like Dwight and you walk out there in a uniform, people don't look at you and say, hey, that guy's hurt. They look at it, they say, wow, he's on the court, and look at him. Big men are different. They can't bring the ball up the court. They really rely on their teammates, to make them look good. Certainly there are some things that big guys can do on their own. They can rebound and defend, and, but, if you don't have help on the perimeter defensively, and, you're always getting beat and you rely on the big guy can't help you all the time. And if he doesn't help once or twice, then maybe, he gets blamed for that. All in all, taking into consideration the season and new players, and most importantly, the injury that he had, I think he had a great season, and he just didn't get enough credit for it.
Mitch, even the most critical GM in the league on Dwight, wouldn't that GM still almost have to offer him a maximum contract given where he is in the league, what his skill set is, his age, and so on and so forth?
I don't think there's any doubt. Dwight is in a category of the great. And he's over his back injury, and there's no reason why he can't play, 7, 8 more years at that position. And there's no doubt in my mind, if he does, he's in the Hall of Fame. And those players are just hard to come by.
What is your main message, if simple, to Dwight about why you want him to come back here and why that could be the best thing for him?
He's our future.